In a world where digital currencies reign supreme, one cryptocurrency is poised to redefine the game, no? Litecoin's resurrection and resurgence is coming, and the Litecoin Forecast is your 24/7 guide to riding this silver surge. Join us as we stream continuously, analyzing every move, discussing macroeconomic trends, what's driving this bull market, what narratives will come into play as we move higher, and what we'll be watching for signs of a broad market top T. The Litecoin Forecast, illuminating the path to redemption, hosted by Litecoin, joining us now.
Hey, what's up guys? Can you hear me? Just test this out real quick. How's everybody doing? I know I decided to go live early, so there's not a ton of people here. So we'll wait a sec. At 135 sell well. Fuck that thing, yeah. What's up, Vaughn? Jeff, thanks for coming every time. I really appreciate it. Audio's good, thank you. I'll wait a few seconds before we look at the low time frame stuff. Awesome, Clint, thank you. Thanks for showing up again. Make sure to hit the like button. I'm trying to go early just so we can hopefully get a lot of people in here before Tony comes in to talk with us. What's going on, MK? Not much here. I mean, I just tried to sleep during the day because I basically stayed up all night to interview Rickus. If you guys haven't checked that out, there's a recording with Rickus, who has a very interesting perspective and honestly highly detailed, highly correct form of macro analysis. He's a super smart guy. Kind of put all this stuff together, figured things out himself, and has been successfully trading this market cycle better than anyone. Better than most, at least. LTCN is over 20. Nice. Hopefully it goes to a premium. That should result in more spot buying, more grayscale buying for Litecoin. So let's look at the lower time frames. Let's start with Bitcoin first, because that's what we were watching for signs of potentially Litecoin making this major move, at least to 180 and then potentially all-time highs. So we were identifying this structure as pretty bullish. I know on the 4-hour time frame, the CMF was kind of curling up, so it looked very bullish to me. CMF rising, the structure, it was consolidating within a range, and I was expecting a move higher into the second week of December before a correction, and that should give Litecoin enough time to make its move. So this is a good sign to see that Bitcoin's breaking out here. With positive CMF values on the 4-hour time frame. Let's look at the Litecoin chart real quick. We identified this horizontal resistance as a key level for Litecoin to break. It's where it rejected in March of 2022, and it's also where historically it's found support and resistance throughout the 2017 and 2021 cycles. So it's a huge level where there naturally is buyers and sellers trading coins. So you'd expect lower time frame consolidation. You notice here price rejected and respected that level. Just a brief kind of wick above, but multiple tests and was rejected. We just tried to test it again and re-rejected. But I expect upon the break of this level that Litecoin should make its largest percentage gain so far. And you find confluence there with what XLM had been doing. The same exact structure. That's why I think it's relevant to look at. So over the last 7-8 years, XLM and the Litecoin chart has looked nearly identical. So this level around 0.0023 is where XLM struggled too. Just pull it up on the hourly time frame. So Litecoin's doing almost exactly the same thing. Where it came up, went above, retested multiple times. We might be right here, or we just rejected a third time. And upon that break, that was where you saw LT or XLM rally up to all-time highs within like 3 days. So this is a 170% move. That's what I think is most likely for Litecoin here. We'll have to wait and see. But a similar move from this level of 160%, 70% is a 360. So that's basically all-time highs for Litecoin. So we'll see if we can get that move. But I think, you know, the next time it tests this, it should break, especially if Bitcoin's bullish here. Against the Bitcoin pair, looks very similar, right? Just broke out, came down and retested this level twice, as well as with Ethereum. And so we should move up to this next major area of resistance, which is about the same in terms of percentage gains, 100%. So if Bitcoin's rising, Litecoin against the dollar should move further than LTC, BTC. Volume is huge right now. Great interview with Rickus. Dude brought receipts. Yeah, I woke up like 30 minutes before and saw this long list of charts that he had sent me. And I'm like, oh man, I gotta try to familiarize myself with these. But I'm glad he pretty much took the lead and went through all that stuff with us in a very like clear, organized way. So it was easy to understand, comprehend. And yeah, it was super cool. I've always respected that guy. Seeing him perform so well. See if Litecoin's had anything on the CMF. Not really. You said volume was huge. Yeah, there is quite a bit of volume coming in on Coinbase here over the 4-hour time frame. Probably rotation from XRP. Right, Litecoin and XRP. I was waiting for Litecoin to break out against XRP, and finally we're starting to see some movement there against the LTC XRP pair. This was at all-time highs. Likely area where you'd expect a correction. And hopefully, you know, this FOMO and momentum can die down, so then Litecoin has a chance to take that spotlight. I don't know if anything else is moving. I think still, Litecoin really haven't even made a move against the altcoin market cap. So the next move is when we should get that giant move against others. And again, Litecoin should take the attention away from a lot of these other coins that have been pumping. This space is going to get so crazy into next spring. I still believe, like, from the largest, higher context view, that this will be on par with 2017's bubble. Less so about Bitcoin, more so about altcoins. And I still fundamentally believe, like, my highest conviction or highest probability outcome for Litecoin is hopefully we can get this move to all-time highs relatively quickly, and then because I believe Bitcoin's going to end up in a parabolic blow off into spring next year, I think Litecoin has the best setup if it can rally here in the next few weeks to have the most vertical and extreme move that it's ever had into that blow off. And I know a lot of people say fundamentals don't really matter, but the amount of demand that can come to Litecoin in a high fee Bitcoin environment is huge. People talk about Saylor buying billions of dollars of Bitcoin. Well, the amount of transaction volume that can migrate, which results in buying of Litecoin, could be billions of dollars too. But the supply is so much more liquid and the market cap is so much smaller that you can really see this being the best performing asset. How much of the volume is retail? I don't know, and there's no way to really tell. I think a lot of it probably is. I think retail tends to actually do decent. There's sophisticated retail traders like Rickus and Credible and these guys that do really well. And then there's some hedge funds, I'm sure, that have a lot of capital to rotate around and move markets. But I don't think like the ETF type institutional money is going to do that well. I think they're the most likely candidates to kind of buy the top. But again, you have a mix of people in every market. Right? There's some smart people buying these ETFs, trading them. And then you have the retirement customers as well in that same cohort. Let's go, LTC, yeah. Let's finally get the attention in this space, the mind share. If we do that, I think there's a decent chance Litecoin actually breaks through its all-time high. Just because it's so much smaller than XRP, right? XRP, a huge asset, and it was doing $2 billion of volume on Coinbase. If Litecoin were to see that type of attention, it would be much more dramatic. But we'll see. Like, I don't know for sure. I'm gonna change this music real quick. 420 subs, I know. We've grown pretty fast. It's only been like 2 weeks. So I think this channel has a decent chance of growing pretty dramatically if we're online while price starts rising, and if our fundamental thesis does come into play towards the end of the cycle. You know, I don't see anyone. I had seen nobody talking about this idea that I've had for Litecoin for 8 years, but had confidence in it. You know, 2022, 2021 when I made this account. So that's why I started talking about it. But I'd imagine if that does play out, that this fundamental thesis and narrative will be known by the vast majority of people. So let's keep going with these streams. And like and subscribe if you haven't. I'm sure most of you have already, but it does help it out. I mean, it's just starting. But if we can continue to get high quality technical analysts, well-known people within the Litecoin Foundation, you know, Charlie Lee on here, I think our odds of success are good. Check Litecoin transaction statistics. Still hovering at about 200K a day. We're not really going to see any growth, I don't think, in real economic transactions until the final stages of this bull market, but it can increase vertically, kind of like we saw 2017, where it went up 10x in a matter of a few weeks, or back here in 2013, went up actually like 100x. Don't think we'll see 100x, but we could see Litecoin doing 1 million transactions a day pretty easily towards the end of this. So hopefully we consolidate, find support here, try to break higher. I mean, we could break higher in the next day, and then I think we're off to the races. Yeah, miners messed with us the last 7 years for sure. That's something that's never happened with any other coin. At least miner reserves over circulating supply has never been this constricted, right? This low of a percentage ownership among miners. It'll be a cool comeback story. They own about just under 2%, I believe, which I've showed a lot on this channel. But for comparison, BTC is at 10%, and it's at a way higher price, so you have to factor that into. Bitcoin should struggle above 100K. It takes so much money to move this asset now. See LTC XRP. I think we've bottomed here. This is right on that trend line, this descending wedge. And I think in the final stages, Litecoin can really break out of this. Maybe reach XRP's market cap. What's been doing the best last 24 hours? 7 days, IOTA. A lot of these tokens that people thought were totally dead are making a revival. I saw someone talking about Neo, which I thought didn't even exist anymore. I didn't know anyone did anything with this chain. It's number 87 now. Bitcoin transaction fees haven't really actually increased. It's been a little surprising, but it just tells me that a lot of the long-term holders, especially the old coins from 2017 through 2021, haven't, at least the cold storage buyers, haven't moved funds to exchanges yet. But there's a lot of them. There's 25 million roughly among the 2017 and 2021 class, I guess you could call it, Bitcoin speculation cold storage hodlers. And we know Bitcoin can only process roughly 500K transactions a day. So if we see, you know, tens of millions or 10 million people trying to move coins at the same time, along with added sources of block space demand with runes ordinals, it could get pretty crazy. Filecoin is doing well. It seems like all these coins that had consolidated for a long time are finally making moves. You did a 60K USD loan? Well, good luck. What's up, Anthony? How's it going? Glad to see you in here. Tony's coming in here in about 13 minutes or so. So it'll be cool to talk to him. I know he has a thesis around Bitcoin potentially topping around inauguration day, so we'll ask him about that, his higher time frame view for Bitcoin and altcoins, and then we'll get into the Litecoin charts. I'm gonna go grab some water real quick. Prepare myself. Have I talked about monthly targets for Litecoin? Yeah, I can go over those again really fast, then I'll grab some water. Just to kind of recap, we were first looking at for Bitcoin direction. As long as it held up, I felt like there was a decent chance of Litecoin breaking out on the higher time frames. Looks like Bitcoin did just break out. Has this of kind of the range we'd been in for the last few weeks at least. So I'd expect this to grind higher. It does make it more likely, from my view, that Litecoin breaks out of this higher time for resistance. We were saying roughly 133, 134 level. Prior was the main area of resistance to break, and once it does break, I think we likely see 185 and then potentially all-time highs. And the reason for that is this is a really key level. It's easier to see on the XLM chart. So I showed that earlier, but since you asked, I'll show it again. Same kind of area where XLM had found support and resistance, right, throughout 2017, 2018 bear market, and then it broke down in March of 2022 from that level. That was this region here. And Litecoin's actually doing basically the same exact thing. So XLM struggled to break this level, meandered around sideways for a couple of weeks, but when it did break finally, that's when it ran to all-time highs in a few days. So we'll see if Litecoin can make that same move, but it should happen relatively quickly if it's to follow XLM. But I think it's likely just because Bitcoin looks bullish here for the next week or two. And Litecoin's tested this resistance level a ton of times the last few days. Yeah, Dino coins, legacy coins, utility coins. It's funny, CZ, the Binance founder, is tweeting about utility coins literally right before they broke out. But I'm gonna grab some water, use the bathroom, and then I'll be back in a few minutes. But don't go anywhere because Tony will be here in a sec. Okay. I'm gonna hide this for now. 2025-6 utility coin cycle, next phase of adoption. Potentially, we'll see. Yeah, every cycle it seems like the best performing coins are always under-owned and come out of nowhere for most people. You know, they're not talked about very much. Even Dogecoin last cycle, most people did not expect. There's hardly anyone talking about Dogecoin at the lows in like December of 2020. And then nobody really expected meme coins to do what they did either prior to them pumping. There's a lot of volume coming in on Coinbase, higher than any other hourly candle. Wonder if it's the same on Binance. No, just on Coinbase. That's interesting. I wonder if it's on the LTC BTC pair as well. Quite a bit from Coinbase. Yeah, how many coins can you trust? That does play a role for sure. That Litecoin is trusted and has been around for a long time. A lot of people perceive that as less risky. I think it is. So for certain types of speculators or investors, that is appealing for sure. I think Litecoin's breakout's imminent tonight. Could be. We'll see. I think it's relatively soon though. We got 5 minutes till Tony enters. Litecoin dominance looks pretty bullish. XRP looks like it might lose this support here. Down to at least 191. Can't see clear with my large screen. And sorry about that. This stream setup is sort of janky. I didn't really plan to start streaming. Kind of just happened. And I felt like it was good timing. So we had a decent amount of viewers jump in here and a few streams, and so I decided to just stream through the duration of this bull market. And there was sort of a void within the Litecoin community for providing this type of content, at least in this format. And so I thought it'd be cool to get a lot of the like OG Litecoin accounts in here and merge all of the sub communities within the Litecoin online space, get all their perspectives, and then have some seasoned veteran technical analysts help us navigate and give their perspective on the rest of the cycle. How many times have you spent on this? It's been about 2 weeks of consistent, I don't know really, maybe slightly longer than that, of consistent streaming, but primarily I just had this old Twitch account that I decided to stream to because it allows you to stream to 3 platforms, but I really primarily only used X, and so all the viewers on X and YouTube. Yeah, a lot of weak hands were shaken out. If you look at the comments on a lot of like my posts over the last year or two, the sentiment was extremely bearish. People were kind of freaking out that Litecoin hadn't moved, despite a lot of the other chains in Bitcoin rallying aggressively. So I'm sure a lot of people did sell out, you know, at the lows to chase other things. But I didn't. I think I always viewed Litecoin as being undergoing this long-term consolidation with rising fundamental network demand, relative divergence between network activity and price, and then looking at miner reserves, it made sense that to me why price had struggled. But I was under the assumption from the higher time frames that Bitcoin was bullish. We would see alt season. Eventually, you'd see some capital come into Litecoin, and because the supply was so restricted, it was likely that you'd start to see an aggressive rally. And I think we're just beginning that. Need a new high for peace of mind. Well, so I think a little more patience. And we should get there. Should see new all-time highs this cycle for sure, I think, if my assumptions are correct. And again, I think the final move in this cycle for Litecoin could be the most extreme. Flip XRP for peace of mind. Yeah, I think there's a decent chance. We'll see. That would be cool. So I should have Tony in here in a sec. You were just about to go to bed. I guess I'll stay for an hour or so. Yeah, might as well stick around. I appreciate you coming in here. You're at Left Bassin said you're just too stubborn. Did anyone see the Van Eck comment on Litecoin's Twitter post the other day? I didn't. What did they say? When do you expect the big hike to 185? After we break through this short-term area of resistance that's rejected price over the last few days. Once we break that, I think it's not very long for Litecoin to make its move and catch up. Worst thing about your bag is that you traded it for 3 Bitcoin. Dang, man. Your prediction is for the next level, next leg up is starting in an hour. We'll see. I don't know if it's going to rally that soon, but it's possible. Anthony has been shitposting Litecoin for 7 years. It looks like Tony just joined the room. I'll have to add him to the stage here in a sec. If you guys don't know him, he's been calling this cycle very accurately, actually. I think from the lows in 2022. But he's TonytheBullBTC, Twitter certified market technician. I believe that's what that stands for. That's really cool. Has done really well. So I'll add him to the stage here right now. It should be added. Hey Tony, how's it going?
Doing well. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming. I know you've been busy in real life, so I appreciate you taking the time. This account, we just kind of started 2 weeks ago, but it's been growing pretty fast. So we have a decent amount of people in here. It says on X like 300, but I don't know if that number is actually accurate, and then 40 on YouTube. So appreciate you gracing our presence here. Where are you at in the US? Are you on the East Coast?
Yeah, I'm in the East Coast, a little bit north of Boston these days, but yeah, in Massachusetts.
Oh, nice. I was in Boston for like a month last December for another work thing, and I stayed in the North End for like a month. It was fun. Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah,
it was a bit cold and rainy, but it was super cool.
Good.
Yeah, did you grow up there? Is that where home is for you?
Born and raised from the area. Always worked kind of in the area and everything like that.
Oh, sweet. Awesome. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Well, generally, I've been asking people kind of their background and how they got involved in crypto. I'm always interested in what drew all of these various personalities and traders into crypto in the first place. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit with us about how you discovered Bitcoin and started trading.
Yeah, so I actually have a content background. I used to be the vice president for a company named Evolve Media, and I ran mixed martial arts websites, video game websites, entertainment, all kinds of things. And I remember specifically seeing in the video game forums at the time, someone talking about making a lot of money off Bitcoin. It went from $1 to like $10 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Started asking about it, and I was basically led away from it, saying that it's like, too early, really volatile, can get hacked easily. Stayed away from it. Another time I was covering a consumer electronics show out in Las Vegas. I want to say it was like 2014 or something like that. I think Bitcoin was trading for like $120 or something like that at the time, and saw a booth for Bitcoin at the show. Took a selfie in front of it. Didn't buy any Bitcoin. Obviously, regret that. Didn't really hear about it for several years later until 2017, when it was like all of a sudden this thing is at around, close to $10,000. And, I saw it at 10. I saw it at 100. Now I'm seeing it at $10,000. I decide, I don't want to miss out anymore. I bought some. And it went to 20K extremely, extremely fast weeks later. And like most people during a bull market, I thought I was a genius. I started rolling it all into altcoins. I made some money. I had a really good trade with rolling Bitcoin into something called Ryblocks, which is Nano now.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Actually, my brother was talking about that right before it pumped in 2017.
Yep.
And he almost bought a bunch, but it went up like 100x in a matter of weeks, I think.
It was a huge move. And I didn't know what to do with any of these things, so I really kind of just held on to them until everything crashed by like 90%. And that's when I started to realize, especially through Bitcoin, after the 2017 top and it began the 2018 bear market, there was that triangle. And I remember so easily being able to visualize the fact that, like, hey, if you just bought 6K a bunch of times and sold it, like, first it was like 13K, then it was 10K, then it was 8,500. You could have like tripled the amount of Bitcoin you had during that time. And it started to get me interested in trading. So I got into it, learned a little bit more, started to do really well. And then one day I just happened to decide to get into leverage trading. And I'll be honest, I lost a ton of money. First trade I made like 20 grand off the trade, and thought again, I'm a genius. I have a natural talent. And then I just got creamed after that and like wiped out a whole entire account. And
oh man.
Yeah, I think that's, in some ways, it's a good thing for a lot of traders to go through, because it helps you just really cope with all of it and the idea of loss. But it was a game changer for me, because I had realized, like, look, if I wanted to do this, I need to take things a lot more seriously. And I decided to go out and become a CMT. So that is 3 years of, 3 6-month courses. I failed a couple of them too. It's extremely, extremely challenging, and teaches you like everything from the basics to like some of the most advanced topics around technical analysis, risk management, emotional control, macroeconomic stuff, intermarket analysis, cycles, Elliott wave, like just a broad amount of subject matter. And even then, I got my certification now. It's closing in on a year, and it's not until recently that having real market experience combined with the training and skills that, like, now a lot is really happening for me. Some trades just kind of stand out and pop out. I'm not necessarily even looking for things anymore, and so yeah, it just kind of came together for me recently, and I'm really
awesome. Yeah, that's cool. It seems like everyone that I've interviewed so far, even Rickus was on here early in the morning. It's similar experience, right? I think everyone has to go through that early on, that hard learning process where you actually lose your own real money, and then go through like a serious study, commit yourself to learning the trade, and then eventually things come together. I've heard some people say it takes like 7 years. Todd Butterfield had said that a few times. before traders really develop confidence and see positive performance. I found like it was same with me. I entered similar time, like late 2016, had heard about it before, and I didn't feel like I had a really good grasp until this cycle. So that's cool to hear. I appreciate you sharing that story with us. How on the CMT, you feel like it was worth it? It was worth the time and energy to get that certification?
I do. I from a variety of perspectives too. Like, you know, you're kind of taken a little bit more seriously in this world, especially sadly. I think people who focus around crypto are still kind of seen as like almost like, you know, the degenerate gambler and like not as serious as the stock guys or the Forex guys or whatnot. So the CMT thing for me was to sort of elevate myself and stand out, you know, in a world of a lot of like pseudonymous crypto accounts, you know, hidden behind, you know, like a duck or something like their dog.
For sure.
You know what I mean? So not that there's anything wrong with that. I just wanted to be a little bit different and kind of I don't know, I guess again, elevate that sort of.
For sure. Yeah, it gives you some credibility. You actually went through and have the credit of understanding broad-based technical analysis. So that's cool. I was thinking about it myself. That's why I was asking. So we'll see. Maybe I'll venture into that area in the future.
Good luck. And if you do, I'd be happy to sponsor you. Yeah, you need a couple, well, I think 3 sponsors when you're all said and done. So I'd be happy to do that for you.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I have a traditional finance background, but a lot of the kids who go through finance school, they don't teach any of this stuff like in college. So I don't know why that is, but yeah, all my friends that went through finance school as well, I had no clue about technical analysis, and the only reason I discovered it was through managing my own funds and trying to learn on my own. But that's cool. Well, we can maybe talk about that later. Do you have a way to share your screen with us? I know we didn't really
let me
discuss that before.
Let's see. Select tab to share. Cool. Okay, yeah, I figured it out. I'm going to jump right into this one.
Okay. Perfect. So, yeah, we were discussing this a little bit. I saw you post on your X profile quite a while back about this thesis of Bitcoin potentially topping around the inauguration date. So, it'll be interesting to hear your perspective on the technicals that align with that.
Yeah. So, you know, one of the first things you learn in the CMT courses is really just how the market behaves itself. And there's something called efficient market hypothesis, and it's basically just the idea that the market prices in all available information. And the second we started to learn about Trump being so pro crypto, Bitcoin started to kind of really do well. It was doing well right before him speaking at the Bitcoin conference, and believe it or not, that ended up being like a little bit of a sell the news short-term event in itself. Now, as soon it's funny. I always say the charts, you know, can tell you the news. There's that quote: "Tell me the charts, and I'll tell you the news." The charts definitely tell you what's going on, whether you realize it or not. And the night of the all the votes were sort of being tabulated, and Bitcoin started pumping. I said even before it was announced, it looks like Trump's going to win.
For sure.
And you know, the market absolutely took off after that. And basically what I'm getting at is I think that the market, the second it was sort of known he was actually going to be taking office again, the market began pricing that in rapidly. And you know, it's kind of already there. I mean, you know, we're just about at 100K on Bitcoin. Other things are really happening. We have, you know, him talking about a strategic Bitcoin reserve. We have pro crypto regulation, you know, on the horizon. We have Gary Gensler leaving the same day as Trump is inaugurated. Just seems like the perfect setup for widespread euphoria, where everybody sort of looks at this thing and says, there's a new paradigm, like, oh, it's going to change so much. All we need is Trump to say, or a different, politician to say, oh, well, this strategic Bitcoin reserve thing's not getting off the ground for several more years. And boom, that's enough to take wind out of the euphoria. And when you think back, the whole new paradigm thing was when Coinbase was listed on the NASDAQ. And it was like, wow, crypto's really being taken serious. Elon Musk is buying it for Tesla. MicroStrategy's loading up. And this was the top. I know there was this secondary top over here, but, based on how I look at markets, this was the real top. And then, going back even further, the launch of CME futures, it was like everybody was like, institutions are going to have a way to get into Bitcoin. And it's a new paradigm. Anytime there's a reason for people to think it's going to go up forever, that is when they're the most blind. That is when the tops are usually in.
100%.
And then, when you really look at this thing, I'm going to go ahead and try to share another screen. I may have to back out. But anyway, see this screen, or do I have to?
Yeah, I can add the other one. I'll remove this one, and then I can add your other one if it shows up on the bottom.
Let me try. I'll just stop screen and just go ahead and share it on here.
Okay.
Share screen. And there we go. So now I've been working with the same Elliott wave count before this even really started. When you look at Elliott waves, you expect it to grow as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have been, from the second that this stopped over here, I have been drawing this uptrend channel. And what you're supposed to do is then anticipate 4 is going to stop over here somewhere. Well, there's also a scenario where you can get a throw under, where you can go below this sort of boundary and trend line, and a more explosive move up to throw over the trend line. So I think there's a possibility of that happening. We're already back in this thing. We went under it. So based on the counts, the third wave is always more extended. I think the count is very similar over here. As you can see, these two candles right here between the lower degree 3, 4 is very similar to over here. And then I think we get a little bit bigger a correction, and then our last move up. And, each sort of top area here has coincided with the center point of this cycle, the crest of this cycle, quarter semicircle for representing a cycle. Each was kind of where everything bottoms. We have the bottom, absolute bottom here. We have wave 2 bottom in this area, wave 4 bottom in this area. And once again, our crest is, if you look at the date down here, January 20th, which is Inauguration Day, which is the day Gary Gensler leaves of the SEC. So again, this isn't just me picking a date out of thin air because of, how things have looked historically. This has actually been something I'm looking at that happens to line up here anyway. And then the narrative and everything else seems to fit the technical analysis. And that's the way I like to really think of things. It's rarely, just come, I definitely see a lot of traders who like to draw just their squiggly lines and stuff. And really not that guy. I'd rather say, this signal fired here, or this is the count, or something like that. So I don't really like, basically what I don't like subjective analysis as much as I like objective analysis. So Elliott wave is pretty speculative and subjective as it is. But if I can get something that kind of lines up with multiple, Hurst cycle theory, Elliott wave principle, and sort of my own sentiment thinking, I have some pretty good confidence in this. And, Fibonacci's are another important factor in all this. And if you were to kind of draw the top of wave 3 to the bottom of this, we're lining up pretty much right over here where this 5 is. Real good, and it's supposed to jump the trend line anyway. So we may jump and see something up here at this golden ratio Fibonacci. And we top out close to like $185,000 per coin.
Gotcha. Yeah, that aligns a little bit with what Nick was sharing with us yesterday. I like that you do find confluence in multiple data points. I think that's good advice for any trader or person in the chat and on the stream that's looking to try to speculate in markets. You're one indicator is never usually enough to have any sort of confidence. But if you can align, sentiment with your technical analysis, and then it seems like you have this Hirsch cycle theory aligned with the Elliott wave count, aligned with this channel. So it does, to me, look compelling, right? You have multiple data points that you're going off of. It's not just one thing, it's detailed analysis that's leading you to this conclusion. So yeah, we'll see. I think that's possible. Rickus was sharing with us roughly a March timeline based on similar confluence of data points, but it's very, very close to the same type of timing, a month or so away.
Yeah. And specifically when I think about this, I do think about Bitcoin topping here and not so much alts.
Altcoins.
So we'll get more of a like rolling top with some alts topping around Bitcoin. Maybe I actually think meme coins top out a little bit before. I think then we get Bitcoin, then we get like probably XRP and some of these Dino coins, and then probably Ether, DeFi, those sort of categories. And anything else that's sort of left that hasn't popped over here.
Yeah, do you see this cycle as similar to 2017? Because that's kind of what happened in 2017. Bitcoin topped first, then Litecoin, then XRP, and then some of these small coins like Rayblox or Nano. Is that what you're expecting? Because 2021 was a little different, but to me, from my perspective, this will be more of a blow-off, parabolic, max euphoria rise, similar to 2017 or 2014.
I agree with that entirely, and that's really a big sort of factor in my thesis about all of this as well. Is I did have the luxury of being around then, just like I discussed, and I saw how fast Bitcoin went from 10K to 20K, and I don't think people, considering how long it's taken to get up here to 100K, I don't think people realize that it could go from like 100K to that 180K target that I just talked about, literally in a month or two. It's possible. I mean, it did it in 3 weeks, 10K to 20K, or just about 20K, I should say, in 2017. And I think it could very well do it again this time. And that goes hand in hand with it being a huge rounded number psychological level. And once people see, hey, Bitcoin's over $100,000. Are you kidding me? I can't afford $100,000. Or people who don't even think like that and are just like, let me find the next Bitcoin, or let me buy a coin that's cheaper than Bitcoin. That's why we get this crazy altcoin season and this rolling top and everything like that. I think especially like you said, 2021 was a little bit different and had like more of the rolling top. I think people who were around last cycle are going to be shocked by how fast this all moves to the top, personally.
For sure. And I think, this cycle, it's been pretty much a parabolic rise, and it's slightly longer in duration. We had a longer correction, so that tends to build some confluence in my head in similarities to 2017. It was a little bit longer in duration than 2021. 2021 was like a quick rally from 10K to 69K, and then it just meandered. This has been building momentum and strength for basically a year and a half, 2 years. So I guess, could we pull up the Litecoin chart next? I always had the thesis that some of these Dino coins that had undergone long-term consolidation, that had really stripped out weak hands, and had the most constricted supply setup, had the most potential for highest percentage gains, primarily just because of that long extended consolidation, and then the fact that some of these coins, like Litecoin specifically, have such a low market cap and extremely constricted supply, such that if you see, like, generally people come into the space, they have the shotgun approach where they're buying like 10 different coins, and so they're kind of just buying indiscriminately amongst various different assets. At least all my normal friends that are reaching out now are doing that. And so if you have an equal amount of capital going into 10 different coins, the ones that'll pump the hardest are the low market cap and high supply constriction types of coins. And Litecoin seems like one of those. I know you had some Litecoin charts. Oh, I have to add it to at this stage. So this is a higher time frame Litecoin with chart with an Elliott wave count, it looks like.
Yep.
So maybe you could break that down for us a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So just like I was kind of showing on the Bitcoin chart, you go into Elliott wave expecting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's always 5 waves up in a primary trend. And, once that's over, you get an extended bear market. There's other rules and guidelines that go along with Elliott wave. One particular, rule is that triangles only appear in the wave 4 position or in wave B of an ABC correction or X, what is it? Yeah, in a WXY. So the fact that we had this triangle tells us that that basically we had a wave 4 and wave 5 is coming. During a triangle, you get this sort of lowered volatility, which you can see with the actually, I should show you the monthly chart for that one, but I'll come back to that actually. But anyway, you get certain conditions, lower volume, lower volatility until it finally breaks out. And when you get a breakout from a triangle, it's called an upthrust. An upthrust is faster and sharper than your average move. That's why I really don't think that XRP or Litecoin has all that much time left before it tops out, and I expect it to be extremely strong. I also have, just like Bitcoin had sort of a primary uptrend channel that I'm looking at, and then when you draw out the Fibonacci's, I get a top right at the 1.618 golden ratio Fibonacci, just like I did on Bitcoin. So these are meeting a lot of the conditions that I look for in my Elliott wave analysis. I have the 2-month chart right now just to show off the strength of candles. And this one in particular, after the long consolidation and breakout, hit the median, which I think that we possibly could get within the rest of this month.
Yeah.
So we could see $300 in Litecoin, before the end of the year.
For sure.
And after that, I think the enthusiasm could take it literally all the way up to the top of this around $1,800. And the way, again, we're talking about, this was we'll just go from the breakout. This was a 7,500% move. So, I know this seems like a lot and everything, but it's, nowhere near that magnitude. And it's taken 7 years. And again, if we were to look at the Ripple chart, we can see that it actually made it all the way up here. So, I look at Litecoin as a chart that's lagging very much behind XRP, but it's such a similar pattern and similar dynamics and similar cycle of length of pain that the investors had to go away with sideways price action, that I think it all sort of plays out in a similar fashion as well. I'm going to go ahead and drop this down to the 1-month time frame and just kind of remove all this. And, we can see this is really important here. This tightness of the Bollinger Bands. This was something I was looking for in XRP. And the fact that we're above it, it's at, the upper band's at $117. We're at $133. If the monthly candle closes above here, this is a buy signal. And usually when you get such a strong buy signal and you get this expansion at the same time, you get this walking the bands behavior. And that's why moves can get so extreme. And there's a lot of things going on here. So we can see these two spans, when they crossed here, it crossed bearish. We had a bear market. We crossed bullish over here, and things are starting to turn up. Next logical target is probably the top of this. In XRP, we're actually, significantly above it. I would assume the same happens for Litecoin. I think it's a really good looking chart now at this point. Let's see, we tagged parabolic SAR, like a lot of things are going on for Litecoin. My Raging Bull indicator lit up. Let's see what else. And I'm a lot of this I'm doing on the fly.
No worries.
I didn't necessarily plan and see if any of these, but I know this one's close. And when we get this breakout, Litecoin's going to fly. You know what I mean? Litecoin is going to absolutely fly once we get this breakout. And then there's two things that, we're going to get a big move here when this happens, but then we're also going to get a big move when we get above 70 on the RSI. And, even over here, you can see that happened. We were only on the second candle, and this is the second candle. So, huge possibility we get this big move up here. If we make a higher high above here, that's another, signal to add to your position. That if the RSI gets anywhere up near where this is, we're going to have an absolutely monster rally in Litecoin.
For sure. Yeah, this aligns with what we were talking about on the channel in the short-term time frames. This like 133 area where it's at right now, I think if it breaks above, it's rejected like 6 times over the last few days on the super small time frame charts, but it's the major area of resistance that XLM faced. It was the March 2022 kind of horizontal resistance breakdown. And so when XLM broke that, it was 3 days later, it was at all-time highs. So it can move really aggressively. I don't know if it's going to be as extreme as XLM, but it is a relatively small market cap asset. And we do a lot of on-chain analysis as well for Litecoin. And given what we're looking at with transaction data at all-time highs and miner reserves at all-time lows, it's not hard to imagine with the confluence of all these technical indicators that we would move that aggressively, really like in any day now. So that's cool to see that your technical analysis aligns with what we've been talking about. I know a lot of people had hated on Litecoin for so long. How do you view like the psychology of the market around some of these dino coins? Because everyone was saying that it was dead, that it was useless, like a copycat coin. Does that ever does that make you more bullish, or does that ever worry you when you see an asset like that?
Yeah, much more bullish. So it's actually, this is a great question, and Litecoin is a really unique altcoin for me. I actually am one of those people. I don't believe in many altcoins at all. I think they're garbage. I trade them because they have good charts and I want to make some money with them, but I don't believe in like any of these things. However, before crypto and even now, I'm a gold and silver investor. And I very much view Bitcoin as gold and Litecoin as silver. The low the scarce supply, the way it works just like Bitcoin for the most part, just faster. It very much feels like silver to Bitcoin's gold. And it's one of the few coins I believe in and do think has real value. And because of that, I think the market was very wrong about it. And all we saw is just the psychology of a sideways triangle. These long drawn out sideways corrections are really painful, even on a smaller scale. I mean, look at what the market just went through psychologically for that Bitcoin sideways wave 4 correction. It was absolutely brutal for people, and it was only 8 months long. Imagine doing it for 7 or 8 years. So that's what Litecoin holders did. That's what XRP holders did. And again, it's exhausted the selling after so long. It's killed sentiment, and so you have this recipe for a huge aggressive move. That's, again, I think that's why it's called the upthrust and why it does move faster than other moves, because it's just so much built up like tension from angst and people not knowing what to do and people getting out and getting back in. So yeah, I think there's just so much going on with it, and again, because of that, it's really going to do well.
Yeah, if you look at, I was looking at the 3-week Bollinger Band width, and it was at all-time lows before starting this move the last few weeks. So extreme volatility compression, pretty insane to see. And then I like what you said about the fundamental value, because a lot of traders typically don't look at fundamentals at all. I think either you're a technical analyst generally or a fundamental analyst. I've tried to look at everything, and my thesis since 2017 was that Litecoin was really a second Bitcoin chain. The scaling solutions that were proposed, I thought both didn't work. Larger block sizes, with Bitcoin Cash haven't really seen adoption, and then Lightning Network and credit layers haven't as well, but Litecoin has. And so really you could see that narrative in a blow off, where we move to the 4 digits of Litecoin being the second Bitcoin chain, even though people say there's no narrative that can come because they can't really imagine it or don't understand it. I do think that narrative comes into play. And yeah, Litecoin may be a chain that people are willing to buy because it has this history, has been around so long, and is likely to survive. We'll have this parabolic blow off and then likely an extreme bear market, but at least it's something that isn't just going to be around for one cycle and then die.
Yeah, totally agree there. And yeah, you're probably right. People do really look at fundamentals or technicals. Um, so as a trader, I really am
Mhm.
only focusing on the technicals. But I do. I mean, I'm an investor too. And when I'm investing, I do care about fundamentals. I only want to hold things that have some sort of like underlying value in my eyes and has to serve
Sure.
some sort of purpose. And I do. I've believed that in Litecoin since 2017 when I first bought it and first heard about it.
Gotcha. That's super cool to hear. Um, are there any other indicators you're watching, like on the lower time frames for Litecoin, to see when this move may start to get more vertical?
Yeah. So, anytime we're above 70 on the RSI, it's usually a phase where, things are doing pretty well. What you want is to get a lot of these sort of repeat moves in there, as you can see up over here. Every time
Mhm.
it's kind of spikes in, you get a bigger move. I think we're kind of starting that behavior now, and should hang around in that sort of behavior for a while. On the lower time frames, I'm seeing something good sort of develop already. And I don't know if you recall, but earlier on I said there was a close above the upper Bollinger Bands, and then it's starting to
Mhm.
walk the bands. And I think that's sort of what's going on here. We're getting these elevated strength readings on the RSI. We're getting, closes above and holding above the upper Bollinger Band, which should kind of keep this rally going higher. This is looking like a higher highs on a closing basis, so that's another good sign. We should continue to move up, I think, at least in the short term. And again, if I'm to count this out, this is a pretty lengthy wave one, a 1-2. So there's a chance we get a little bit more sideways here. I think we'll probably explode up to closer to 200 and then have maybe a little bit bigger correction before this
Mhm.
thing is on a lot harder. But yeah, a lot of different time frames are starting to kind of sync up and show these same signals, walking the bands above 70. We want to see that move up across all time frames. Here we go. It's happening here above 70. These things, especially on the weekly time frame, they don't happen very often. You only got like a handful of these spikes above, and when you look back at them, they were all pretty significant. The higher we go, I mean, we could get this move like this. So
Mhm.
this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, I keep drawing lines across these sort of peaks to see where things are breaking out. As you can see,
It
we're
looks like, yeah.
of
Wow.
and that's how I sort of look at things. And when I get movements like this, I'll sort of add to a position. I might open some, leverage longs or something like that, because now I know things are sort of getting strong enough for there to be a trending move.
For sure. That looks pretty bullish there, the break of that trend line. Um, do you expect for timing of this, since you were thinking roughly inauguration day, late January, for Litecoin maybe a few weeks after, is that your primary expectation if the Bitcoin thesis does play out, that you would think it tops right around where Bitcoin tops or slightly after? Because historically, when I've been looking at this, like in 2017, it was, I think, roughly the same week, and then XRP ran after. But as far as timing goes, would you say within a few weeks at the same time, or?
Yeah, I think probably within a few weeks is about the window that I would give it. But I wouldn't be too surprised if they actually top out right around Bitcoin. And again, it just really is going back to the whole upthrust idea and the fact that those move really, really quickly. So, there's always this chance that it just accelerates so much and gets so euphoric that it's over faster than we're ready for. And what a mind fuck that is to the market. I mean, we have people who have been waiting 7 years, 8 years for new all-time highs, and then all of a sudden it goes there in like 2 months, and then people aren't going to know what to do, and it's
Yeah.
going to kind of screw people again. So like these are max pain scenarios, in my opinion. People finally gave up, finally capitulated, then it moves extremely fast to where they can't even keep up, don't know what to do, and then it's all said and done and over just in a flash. So be ready
Yeah,
for it.
it seems like this space is already getting to the point where it's hard to keep up. I mean, things are pumping like crazy. Random coins that people thought were dead, like IOTA was pumping, NEO was pumping from 2017.
Yep.
a lot of these things. It's hard to keep track of what's going on. That's why I've always had a focus of just a few assets, because it's too distracting in these crazy, manias that develop. For previous guests, I was showing them my sort of thesis around Litecoin, and since your technicals are very similar to what I've been watching, but I could share my screen real quick and get your thoughts if you don't mind.
Yeah,
On
absolutely.
the thesis that we've had from a fundamental standpoint. This sort of aligns with the technicals, and it's what I've believed would be most likely for Litecoin as it moved into the future long term. So I was kind of talking about it earlier, and I'll pull up a longer Litecoin chart here. But the first fundamental case here that I was trying to make is that Litecoin really is a second Bitcoin chain. So let me fix this. What's interesting here is that Litecoin price basically throughout its entire history has tracked its transactions. So the number of transactions is basically correlated with price over time. And generally what we see, if I overlay one more thing here, is that Litecoin network activity increases every time Bitcoin fees rise. So in 2017, you saw a bunch of transactions added to the Litecoin network when fees really started to become an issue. This was during the block size debate, the scaling wars. And then in 2021, it happened again. But every bear market, the Litecoin network holds up its transaction activity. And to me, that tells me that it's actually organic use, for real economic transactions, and it's not just speculative. Litecoin's kind of an anomaly here in that most coins go up when price goes up, people are spending them, and then they go far back down after the bull market or speculative mania ends. Litecoin holds them pretty well through most of the bull market. So what we were talking about on the channel quite a bit in combination with the technical analysis is this fundamental analysis, and why had price struggled so much despite network activity being at all-time highs, and despite Litecoin basically getting to about 50% of Bitcoin's market share in terms of total number of transactions. In the on-chain stuff, obviously it's just two variables here. The market's more dynamic than this, but we saw miners dumping coins for Litecoin far heavily than any other chain on the proof of work side where you can actually do this analysis. Litecoin miners only hold about 1% of the supply versus Bitcoin miners own about 10%. Dogecoin miners own a similar percentage. And so if we start to see demand here, this gap, I think, is likely to be closed. Like Litecoin will rally up to where it historically has tracked network activity. But my fundamental thesis and why I think Litecoin can get extremely crazy and a true blow off is based upon where the Bitcoin fee level, I think, is expected to go. I know there are a lot of 2017 hodlers and cold storage stackers that have been buying Bitcoin and putting them in cold storage, roughly 25 million wallets based on the on-chain analytic data providers that I follow. And they really haven't sent coins to exchanges yet. So it tells me that a lot of the old coin stackers haven't taken profits in Bitcoin. And when they do, if they all suddenly rush to try to send coins to exchanges like they typically do in the final stages of a bull market, the fee level can rise pretty dramatically. And then what I'm expecting is, because there's roughly like $1 to $3 billion of Bitcoin for economic purposes being transacted below 10K, I think a large percentage can get priced out. And if that historical correlation holds between Litecoin transactions and Bitcoin fees, Litecoin can be monetized not just in the low value ranges, but much higher, kind of where Bitcoin's being monetized today. And it could represent, $1 billion, $2 billion in overnight buying as those transactions migrate, which for such a small asset can result in a crazy price move basically overnight, kind of in alignment with what you were saying. But I think it can get really extreme just because we've never seen miner reserves be so low for any proof of work asset. So it tells me the supply side liquidity or asset side liquidity is insanely low relative to the potential fundamental demand that can come in. And then you add speculation on top of it, and it can get rather crazy. So that's our sort of fundamental view that we've been trying to discuss on this channel. I'd be curious as to your thoughts on that, if you would agree, disagree, or have questions about it.
No, I do agree. And, I think it explains what's going on in the technicals from the supply and demand side. I think the fact that the minor reserves are so low really says a lot. I mean, where's the sell pressure coming from? There's been 7 years for just the people who have just are investing and holding to sell, and a lot of them probably have. We have the miners who sold just about all their supply off. And you're definitely right. I've seen it firsthand where Litecoin is used to send coins to exchanges due to the speed and low fees. It certainly matches the idea and why an upthrust could move so quickly. It's really difficult to deny the fundamental strength in Litecoin. I realized, at least 2 years ago that it really sort of became disconnected from price. The fundamentals continued to grow and skyrocket while price didn't. And I've always watched that and thought to myself that someday, the price would catch up. And I think it will, and I think it will very quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate your feedback on that. We'll see what happens. It looks like in the short-term time frames, I think if we break this level here, which acted as resistance and support historically, this is the level to break before we see that large move to the upside. But we'll see. We'll keep watching. If we see a move like XLM, XRP to all-time highs, is that an area where you'd take profits, or do you think you're just going to ride it until the potential cycle peak?
That is a really great question, and I will probably scale out a small bit of my position at former all-time highs, but I will leave the lion's share to ride higher, and I will scale out more aggressively once we're over $1,000.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a good plan. I think good advice for everyone listening in. That's sort of my plan too. I think if we make that vertical move, a lot of the long-term holders won't know what to do, like what you were saying before, and so you might not see that much resistance, just because hodlers are at all-time highs. If we're going to move aggressively and everyone is convinced that, wow, this crazy vertical move isn't done yet, I don't think you'll see some profit taking, but relative to the demand that can come in, I think it's likely that we break it. So we'll have to see. I really want to see the next couple weeks what happens, and we can kind of take it from there. But I do appreciate your technical analysis. It's unique, a different perspective, and obviously you've gone through the technical training over multiple years to come to concrete and like actual credible conclusions as to what price might do. So I really do appreciate that. I don't have that same CMT training, and I think it's valuable for all the people listening here. Like, this is actually professional trading advice and experience. Obviously nothing's financial advice, but it's really nice to have someone who knows what they're doing talking to us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on the show. I had a good time.
For sure. Yeah, and then if this does move rather aggressively, would you be down to potentially come back if we are trading above $1,000? Because I think a lot of people won't know what to do. There should be a lot of increase in viewership, I would imagine, and I think it'd be helpful for experienced people who've been here since 2017 to give their advice.
Absolutely, and I think there's a lot of value in that, because my biggest goal over the next few months is really to stay calm, not get caught up in the euphoria, and be very strategic about where I sell everything. Because I think, as I've pointed out, based on the Elliott wave theory, once that wave 5 is over, you get a huge bear market, and it's going to be the biggest bear market we've ever seen. It's going to be worse than anything we've seen before, because the last bear markets we've seen were just wave 2 and wave 4. You know what I mean? So whatever's coming is going to be worse than anything we've ever seen in crypto. So it is important to be getting out properly this time.
I do agree with you. From like a larger macro picture, Bitcoin's only ever existed in this, inflationary environment where we could continuously lower rates, continuously keep reinflating bubbles, and wave fives and commodities especially are typically very extreme out of fear, FOMO, and then the correction after is pretty brutal. So I agree like 100% with almost everything you're saying. It'll be bad. So it's crazy in these markets because like a few weeks or months can make years or decades worth of typical investment gains. But if you don't exit, then you can really be screwed for a long, long time.
Yeah, and I guess one last note for anybody listening is, if you think holding for 7 years without a new all-time high was bad, wait until it's 10, 14, 20 years. So
Yeah,
don't get caught holding the bags this time.
for sure. Yeah, there's examples like in the Japanese, the Nikkei index, people held for like 20 or 30 years before they broke even. So that's really good advice. Do you have any other things last thoughts that you might want to share with newcomers to the
Yeah,
space?
I guess more than anything want to stress being calm. So when the market starts moving, and again, I keep talking Elliott wave. It's actually my favorite form of practice around technical analysis. They call this the impulse phase, and it's not just called that because the way price moves. The way price moves causes us as participants in the market to act impulsive. We may sell positions too early. We may, be nervous. We may not know when to re-enter. We may sell something thinking we're going to buy a pullback, and the pullback never occurs. So even a great example, someone who knows this stuff and is a trade is me. I closed out an XRP long at like $1.30, and it went all the way to $2.80. I would have made so much more money. And I was doing that expecting some sort of pullback that I would just get right back in, and it never happened. So just be mindful that the market is designed to shake you out of your position when it's going up, when it's going down, and just stay calm. You've waited this long. Let it ride. Get towards the top. When you see everybody around you showing screenshots of their portfolios and talking about them buying cars and watches, it's time to sell your coins.
For sure. I think that's great advice. I had a friend that was asking me the same thing. He saw a YouTube influencer saying we're going to have a crazy correction in altcoins like a week ago, and then he sold everything, and now he doesn't know what to do. So don't make that mistake. That's super helpful. Yeah, if you have established positions, it's super hard to trade now on short-term time frames. Even the professional traders probably won't do anything. They're sitting on their hands waiting for this move to complete. Tony, do you have, I know viewers can find you. You're at TonytheBullBTC on X. Are there any other places? Do you have a YouTube channel or other social media accounts?
Yeah, so I actually do have a YouTube channel. I'm not very active in it, though. I'm thinking about reviving it. However, I do have a Substack newsletter. You can find me at coinchartist.substack.com. And basically it's a $9.99 a month newsletter where you get something weekly. Every once in a while, I may take a week off, like around a holiday or something like that. But it is data driven. It's technical analysis driven. It has Elliott wave theory. It has macro analysis in there, and a lot of educational stuff as well. So I recently became a mentor on the Slice app, and basically I'm just teaching people how to perform technical analysis. And and then I'm also running the Twitter subscriptions now, which I'm starting to really enjoy. I do things like chart requests and stuff like that. That's unique to that platform. So I'm at different places and trying to do something different on each of them.
Okay, awesome. So for the Slice app, I haven't actually heard of that. Is that where you give like instruction on technical analysis, like teach newcomers or teach people that are interested in learning?
Exactly. And I do more specific trade setups where I'm actually taking these trades as well. I show how much capital I'm putting on and what percentage of my capital. It will show my entry level, what my stop loss is, and just every detail about the trade, and it tracks it in real time on my profile. So anything that I'm posting on there is something I'm actually doing and making myself accountable for the public eye.
Gotcha. Awesome. Is there a link to that? Or
Yeah, it's slice-app.io.
okay. Is that your own app, or is this just we
No,
can
it's
find you on here?
yeah, it's something new that's just coming out. I'm actually working with the company and helping them hone the platform, giving them feedback on the back end. Any users that I have who signed up as a mentorship, they may say things like, I could use a better line of communication with you rather than just leaving a comment, and we're going to work on things like that. So we're actually developing the platform as we go, but it's very big on mentorship where I'm actually teaching you things. In yesterday's example, I did how to use the Bollinger Bands as a trading system for range trading, for trend trading. What the buy and sell signals are around it. What the squeeze is, what walking the bands are, things like that. So really a comprehensive look at anything I publish on there. It's a lot more in depth than what you'll get on Twitter. Whereas the newsletter itself is more of like a holistic market update thing that happens once a week, gives you a wrap on everything.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's a cool suite of options. If they want the most detailed stuff, they can sign up here. When they choose mentor, do they just search Tony the Bull? Is that your name?
Tony the Bull Severino. Search Tony the Bull Severino, or I'll actually go ahead and put a link to it in my Twitter profile if you want to find it to make it easy for you. And you can log in and sign up. And anything you need, you can feel free to leave comments and ask me. I'm always available. I try to interact with everybody on X, and teach people as well as post content. It's not just about the content for me. It's about people getting something out of it as well.
Yeah, just delivering value for sure. Yeah, you've done a lot of work. It makes sense that after all the experience and work you've gone through to get the CMT, that you'd want to help out people. And I do tend to agree with most of everything Tony said, macro-wise and from a technical, analytical point of view. So go check it out there if you're interested. I think Tony's a lot better trader than me, so would definitely deliver value to you. But I appreciate it, Tony. Thanks so much again for coming on here, despite this being not the largest channel.
Oh, Ben, we all got to start somewhere. I think you're doing a fantastic job. You have a great market with the Litecoin community. So keep up the great work, and thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, enjoy your night.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, have a good one.
You too. It was a pleasure. Bye.
Yeah, see ya. Cool, guys. That was awesome. I think Tony's charts, out of everyone so far, were the most detailed, most clear to read, legible. I think his analysis is very good. It tends to align with everything we've been talking about, just from a slightly different perspective. So every trader or investor has different indicators, different style of trading. All of them can work, but everyone has to have their own style and what makes most sense to them, what they're interested in. So that was really cool. Killing it today. Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Yeah, great. That was a great guest. Probably my favorite so far. I think he's a real dude. I mean, I like all these people because they, like Rickus and Tony, they went through the same thing I kind of have gone through over the years of learning these things themselves, figuring out what works, and then actually finally becoming profitable traders. So to do that is extremely hard, and it makes sense why they want to share their knowledge with other people. Best channel on the tube, thanks. I think it's because of the guests, honestly. I was surprised that everybody that I've asked so far was pretty willing to share their thoughts. So I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to speak to these guys. I know the stream is still kind of janky. I plan to get a better stream setup. John actually sent me a second monitor today. So thanks, John, for that. Shout out to John. Super supportive. So I don't have to have this infinity screen forever. Should you swap your XRP bag and go all in LTC? That's up to you. I do think XRP is at the level where you'd expect it to retrace, being at basically all-time highs. I think the risk reward is good. I mean, if you look at the LTC XRP pair, it's basically at the all-time low level, forming some bullish divergence on the RSI. So I am biased, but I think that LTC does outperform XRP over the coming weeks. Yeah, Clint says hit that like button. Make sure to like and subscribe. We have David Schwartz on tomorrow, who's the director of the Litecoin Foundation. TonytheBullLTC, yeah. I think he is more bullish on LTC than BTC here, obviously with his price targets for both of them. Bitcoin max like 2x from here, whereas Litecoin is 20. Allsing Eye says, if we believe that strongly in Litecoin's value proposition and all the positive metrics, it seems it would be best to hodl through another cycle. The way I view that is not necessarily the case, because what's driving price in all these cryptocurrencies is speculation, right? If Litecoin were to see massive increases in adoption, and that's the reason why its price was going up, rather than speculation through Coinbase, Binance, these exchanges, then I would tend to agree that, sure, it would continue to grow and have this linear growth path, but you know, a 10, 20, 30x move over a short time frame, or potentially even higher, will retrace. So my plan is to exit most of my cryptocurrency positions. I might keep some long term, but exit them and then wait to see signs of adoption and usage in the real world before I'd be confident in re-entering. These institutions will be holding long term. Yeah, it's always hard when you're talking about institutions. I think institutions represent just a lot of people, you know, just like retirement account people. Maybe some institutions, maybe some corporations like MicroStrategy will hold long term, but holding doesn't do much for price. You need consistent buying, and if you're buying with leverage, like Michael Saylor's doing, eventually you got to repay that debt. And if you don't have cash flow from your business to repay it, the only way you repay that is with selling your Bitcoin. So there's a lot of leverage in the system that's not directly found on exchange books. You know, this whole financial system is very over leveraged, and when that comes out, or if and when it comes out, you know, prices would decline pretty rapidly. But exciting on the short-term timeframes. It was cool to have them on right here. It looks like this could break out anytime. So maybe we'll just hang out on stream and watch the price chart. And I'll turn up the music if you guys want to continue hanging out. If not, I can end the stream. I'll see what you guys want to do. We do have Grant, or LTC Underground, hosting a Spaces at 9 o'clock Eastern, so in a few hours we can have him, or have us all go over to his Spaces and show him some support. We need some hype music to watch the 15-minute chart. Disco music? Yeah. The hard part is not selling too early. That is the hard part, and then the hard part's actually selling it. Right? Hard to call the top. gonna pull up the chat on my phone. Clint says, "I'll just keep borrowing against it forever." Eventually, people won't loan you money at some point. We're trying to break out. We are, but it's rejecting. 3-minute time frame. Okay. Yeah, this is like, you could call this an ascending triangle here. I don't know. I'm not convinced it'll break right now, but we'll see. It's rejected again, but higher lows, and I think if we test it again, this could break out right now. Pull up the 1-minute time frame. Oh yeah, I should go to the bathroom because that price typically breaks out. Alright, I'll go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back. Alright guys, I came back. I failed. I didn't have to go to the bathroom. You can't force it, just like you can't force the price. It'll come when it's ready, you know? Looks like that idea kind of failed. What should we do? I go. Done. I need to change this music. That's what I need to do. I need to make some more songs. Dude, I drank a lot of water. I was dehydrated. This is gonna become like a recurring theme. I can imagine if we start breaking out on the higher time frame, like breaking above this level finally, it should be aggressive moves. I feel like I'm gonna spend a lot of time in the bathroom. Man. Look at Zcash. Didn't it pump like pretty aggressively? Alright, let's look at Zcash. It's full price history. That's similar accumulation from the CMF. I honestly don't know much about Zcash. I don't know much about how the privacy features work on this chain. But if it breaks above this level, probably pretty bullish. Run back to its 2022 highs. Everything's going to pump. H-bar, a lot of people are talking about this chain. I really don't understand the real world asset tokenization hype. It's come around every cycle. $21 million Zuko, 20% dev. Yeah, I remember, kind of remember that. It's like trusted setup, but centralized around a company. I see. Want to check out a Dino coin called Verge. I remember that coin pumped like Ray blocks in 2017. Looks like it's been pumping too. What the heck? It's up 5x. All the Dino coins. Where's Verge's complete price history from 2017? Maybe Bitfinex has it. Yeah, this was one of the craziest rallies in 2017. Verge and Nano, both of those, and then Tron went insane as well. The porn coin? I think so. Filecoin is deep fucking value. I don't know. I remember Filecoin. I remember it was promoted by like James L. Tucher in 2017. That guy's like dude you run away from when he starts recommending something. Or at least from what I've seen. You have 10 file? Nice. Is that like $1's worth? I don't even know what the price is. Well, unfortunately, this is not on the 1 minute time frame looks like it's not going to break out in the next 10 minutes. But probably will soon. I wonder what volume looks like on Binance, Bitfinex, Kraken. I wonder why there's such a large discrepancy today in Coinbase buy volume. Just on this hourly candle. One guy. Or one institution. Oh shit. I think I'm you want me to lower the volume? Is that what you mean? Or low volume as in low trading volume? XRP dumped some tokens. Yeah, I think a lot of them were relocked, to be fair. XRP, but yeah, $1 billion or $2 billion was unlocked. But most of those get relocked. Although, still like $200, $300 million is a lot of sell pressure. Ethereum's trying to break out of its March 2024 high. If it breaks that level, it probably does pretty well. Yeah, it's me. Strange to see a pump like that without volume. What coin was that we were talking about? That pumped with low volume? The H bar? It's Wednesday night for us right now. Is it? It's Thursday morning for you guys. Singapore. Wednesday's usually one-sided. I haven't been paying too much attention to the days of the week and how that's correlating with price. You have a regular job? Not really. Not like, kind of, yeah. I have my own business in a sense, you could call it. But as far as like full-time employment, I've been, I used to, like through 2017 through 2020. And I did some like side job 2021, 2022, but did okay in the crypto cycles. What business? I don't know if I should talk about it yet. Maybe later. Adoption will outweigh inflation on the top cryptos. Possible. I just think there's way more speculative capital entering this space that are trying to make money, buy and sell things than there is demand for these networks to be used as money. I might go eat dinner real quick, and then if price breaks out, I'll come back if that's okay with you guys. But I think it was a cool stream. I liked the interview we had with Tony. It was very, very fun. I think we're getting better at these. When we have a second monitor after John's donation comes in, we'll be having higher quality content. Tony's chart was fun and great. Yeah, I agree. Professional, easy to read, clearly easy to kind of see his rationale. 420 subs, yeah. We need to pump those numbers up. It's been... Oh, we have 425 now. Nice. I want to see how many people tuned into this stream with Tony. Yeah, like, subscribe, share, all those things that help this channel. Hopefully we can explain the Litecoin value prop to more people. Account's doing good. Yeah, the growth is good so far. I think it has a good chance of growing if we get this strong price move. I need better thumbnails, better titles. You know, the YouTube influency type titles and thumbnails. Could be 1,000. Thanks. Yeah, I think we'll get there. 10x account in about a month. Be sick. Alright guys, I'm gonna go for a bit, eat dinner, and then if the price starts breaking out, I'll go live again. Thanks for coming. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you guys either later tonight or tomorrow. Tomorrow we have David Schwartz from the Litecoin Foundation. And then I actually have Paul Stork, who's working on Drivechains, coming on Saturday. Saturday at 12 Eastern. Make sure to tune in for those. Peace and love, guys. Peace and love. See you later. Have a good night. Or day, if you're in Singapore.
In a world where digital currencies reign supreme, one cryptocurrency is poised to redefine the game, though. Litecoin's resurrection and resurgence is coming, and the Litecoin Forecast is your 24/7 guide to riding this silver surge. Join us as we stream continuously, analyzing every move, discussing macroeconomic trends, what's driving this bull market, what narratives will come into play as we move higher, and what we'll be watching for signs of a broad market top T. The Litecoin Forecast illuminating the path to redemption, hosted by Litecoin, joining us now.